So my TA, brilliant TA Dylan Knowles, had a wonderful idea. I'm sure he won't object to this being on the web. What he came up with was the idea of extending this model with a very slight addition that would shed additional light on these biographies, these stories of which were spoke. Stories that have been impoverished by the tyranny of aggregates within a compartmental context, but which are liberated and can be brought to the fore within an agent-based model. Isn't that true, Jeff?
Indeed. Barely, I'd say.
Right. So Dylan's idea was simple but powerful. The idea was this: add a scatter plot to this model where the x-axis of the scatter plot would be people's income, and the y-axis of the scatter plot would be the number of times infected. Now we could do this on an ongoing basis, but I thought to kind of show another way in which you can use reporting events, we do it at the final time. So rather than trying to sort of see it twist around and undergo gyrations, we can just display it at the final time. Okay? And we'll see how to create a little scatter plot. Does that sound of interest to people? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines and fire up your Anylogics. Okay? We begin forthwith. Great. So what we want to build is a scatter plot. And I'd like to pretend, I'm not there, and you've got to figure this out. Where would you begin? Where would you look? Okay, so you'd add it to what? To main. It's not something summarizing information about a particular person. It's about the general model, right? Okay, so we're going to add it to main. That's a great place to start. And from whence do you think you might obtain the ability to add a scatter plot?
Analysis palette.
The analysis palette, indeed. So we go to the analysis palette, and it stands before us. So which thing here looks plausibly that it might contain scatter plot functionality? That labeled most unassumingly plot. Yes. So let us adorn our model with that plot by dragging it into main, right? And let's give it a name that befits its function. Give it a name, dignify it with a name, because that name, I was corrected. The source of my plot, of the quote to which I heard it attributed was incorrect. It was, in fact, not Frank Lloyd Wright, but Winston Churchill. Indeed, I think it was identified by Don Keith. Yesterday, Winston Churchill, who said, "We build our buildings, and then our buildings build us." And so it is with our analysis graphs. We build them, and then they build our understanding, right? So let's add this, and let's give it a name befitting the dignity it plays within our process, our modeling process. So let's call it plot income. Yeah, we could call it plot, or call it scatter plot, income versus count infections, or something like that, right? Something along those lines. Okay? This is a plot, not a time plot, but a plot. Yeah. Is that okay? So again, I called it something like plot income versus count infections. We won't be relying on that name in the code, but it'll behoove us to have secure clarity on that name. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we've just added this scatter plot from plot here. And now we must populate it. We must populate it with data. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, in order to populate it with data, there's two options for these sort of plots. One is well, let's go to this data section and add in, say we want to add something in. You'll notice we could either say add in a particular value and sort of define where it could find the x and y values, or we could tell it to draw on a data set. And in fact, the value is tempting, but we can't use it in this time, because here we want it to go across every person in the population and add their components. And we're not going to be able to just say do it with a value. If we had other things changing, like if we wanted to define over time, see a phase plot, as was shown by our colleague Dr. Sternberg, if we wanted to see that over time for the model, summarizing the number of count of infectives versus susceptibles, we could do so with this plot value. But we're going to instead plot a data set, okay? So we're going to be plotting a data set here. But which data set? We're going to add that now. Okay? Is that okay? Okay, so let's go do that. Great. So let us go add a data set to our model. From where could we find the data set? Yeah, it's also in the analysis. It's right there. It stands before us. So let's drag it over, and let's call this data set income, data set, and let's give it a value. Data set income versus infection count. Okay, is that okay? Are folks comfortable with that? Okay. Okay, data set income versus infection count. Okay, excellent. Now it says keep up to 100 latest samples. I'm going to say 1,000. But we do not want to use time as the horizontal value. Okay, this is a data set. We don't want to use time as the horizontal value. We want to specify. Ooh, what am I doing? Gosh, this must have went toward thing. Gosh. Okay. Okay. Say 10,000 latest samples. Do not update automatically. Okay. So that's great. Why do I say do not update automatically? Who's going to update it?
An event.
An event, indeed. Okay. Okay. So that's great. We're going to have values put in here for the x and y locations. And then that's going to be defined over here. So let's go back to this plot and get it to refer to this data set before we forget to do that. So in this data area, we'll say it will depend on a data set, and that data set will be here. Come on. Data set. Oh, gosh. Look at that. Okay. Hopefully you're not beset by that. Data set income. Oh, gosh. We lost it. Alas.